Begin by thanking everybody for showing up here. A lot of good people. Just doing the show, how many people my dad touched. Thank you all for being here. I know you're fine. I think we're going to pass this around, let everybody speak. I'll let my darling sister start first. The princess. She had to write it down. These letters.
I agree with her. Thank you so much for coming. And Dad would love it. He wanted a party. Wanted a party. He wanted a party. So he would appreciate everybody who's here. And so while putting this together, I realized there's so many parts to a person's life. And that I only speak to my dad. And I want to tell you a little bit about my dad. And I'm the oldest of his 3 children, and the younger girl, and the princess, which she called me just to irritate her. And it worked. And as probably a lot of you people know, my dad was very loving and gentle, and such a good example to all of us, and hopefully we learned well from him. He loved to fish, he was a pilot, he learned to scuba dive, he was an excellent woodworker, he loved to travel. And you can see his work back there, and the house he went on vacation to build a house. And so, but when I was 16, I had a little fender bender in El Dorado. And in those days, you had to take the offender to the probation office. And my dad and I were sitting at the hall, in the hall probation office, and he said, I thought I'd be here with my sons, but never my daughter. So I knew he'd have my back anytime. He gave me $1 every year for Christmas until I got married. And my birthday is the week before Christmas, and he wanted to make sure it didn't get eaten up in all the Christmas rush, so every year he made sure the family got together for my birthday. And then after I got to be an adult, every 10 years he gave me a surprise party. And after a few decades, it just wasn't that big a surprise anymore. But he was that way. He was fair, and he wanted to make sure each of us got the attention. He was one of the hardest working men I've ever met. He went on vacation to build a house. He wanted the best for his children, and he always tried to make sure they had the best and the best opportunity to be successful in life. And he was the same with his grandkids. He was a mentor to his grandkids and to other people too. And he was teaching them. He taught them how to build houses. He
Taught them how to cuss.
My oldest, which was 9 at the time, came home from a fishing trip. Mom, pull my finger. It was difficult for my dad to give up driving, very difficult. But it forced all of us to spend more time with my dad. And mainly Freddie, driving here and there, and Joyce driving here and there. But if he couldn't get one of us to do it, he hired a taxi, or he hired a driver. He didn't stop. He had things to do, he had places to go. And it was fortunate. I got to take him to lunch every week and a half. And he'd hear about the great-grandkids and all that they were doing. He loved the great-grandkids. And watching them play and have a good time. But probably the most outrageous thing my dad ever did was when my kids were teenagers, all the grandkids were teenagers, he showed up to a Halloween party dressed in a burlap monk outfit with a spray can of diesel and a torch. And all we saw coming was this ball of fire at a kid's party. It really was spectacular. And this last year, he was 88. We have had a water balloon fight every year since my kids were in grade school. It's a big deal in all the family. And Dad's always sat in the safe zone, which didn't always keep him dry, but he worked at it. This last year when he was 88, he says, I'm gonna join in the fight. He was soaked. And the kids had no mercy on him, and he had no mercy on them either. And he got done and he said, I'm gonna do this again next year. Well, next year he'll be in our hearts, and we will be missing him. And I love my dad a lot. Thank you for all of you for coming. I appreciate it.
Does anybody like to tell any stories? I see some group over here that might know a few. Would you guys like to speak? Come on, Jimmy, you want to do it? You want to pass it?
Boy, I actually feel blessed to speak as Kenny. I didn't know Kenny all that well in his younger days. I got to know him when he was in his early 80s and spent a little time with him and Daryl and Gordon Stangley. And, I had the most exciting, memorable 3 days of my life with Kenny and Gordon and Daryl and Pyramid Lakes. I mean, if I would have had a movie camera, you guys would have enjoyed it with me. It was just a trip of my life, and I'll never forget it. About 5 years ago, maybe, we went up to Kenny and Joyce's, Viola and I, and I think Jim and Sherry were with us, because he was so proud of the home and the yard and everything. I hope all of you got to see Joyce's house. Kenny built a rock wall around that house. You would have needed a Vicini or Verkamp's excavator to get some of the rocks there, I would think. I've never seen a wall like that, but Kenny built this beautiful rock wall. They have the most beautiful flowers. He built his little longhouse deal. He was so proud of that. And that's the most beautiful yard I'd ever seen in my life. So they're showing us through the house. And at the high school alumni, Kenny would always donate one of his beautiful bowls to be auctioned off, and I was lucky enough to get a couple of them. And we're going through the house, and he had built Joyce this beautiful bowl with like a burrow in it or something, and I commented on how beautiful this bowl was. So about 2 weeks later, Kenny calls me and he says, Bobby, you've got to come out here. I got something I want you to see. Well, by God, he had built me a bowl with a burrow like that, like the one. That's what the kind of guy was. He was just so generous and such a happy individual. He was a hard worker, hard player. He worked hard, he played hard, he loved life, he loved everybody. And I enjoyed getting to know him in his later years. It was one of the treasures of my memory. We'll all miss him.
So, Jim and I were sitting here and he was telling stories about me. And what I have to tell you is that we were the little cousins to Wes and Kent. And we were both very thankful that there was a Ruthie in the middle, because when them two boys would teach us something wrong or pick on us, Ruthie come along. Ruthie, her daughter here, Jill, is about the same size. Ruthie was a little short, sweet thing. She just kicked the heck out of them two boys. They were always, for some reason, trying to teach Jim and I bad things to do. So, it wasn't my fault, Jim. Ken and Wes's fault.
You don't have to look for problems.
Anybody else?
My grandpa was, as everybody said, generous. Me and my brother and some of my cousins, everybody many, many life lessons, you know, and one of the, so I think it was about 2005, my granddad had built a house on Cedar Bean there. It's a steep lot. And driveway about, 100 yards, I'd say. And he shows up to the, of course, with the different place when he should be staying in bed, but knowing him, he has to be out there doing his thing. And he couldn't drive to the top of the lot where the house would be tatted out. And so instead he parks his truck down the bottom of the hill, gets on all fours, just after everything, starts crawling up the hill. And I look down over the hill and I see, I'm not gonna live this one down. Grandpa breaks his hip. He's got a fight. And so Grandpa, what are you doing? He looks up at me and says, I'm four-wheeling. That was just one of the many stories that sure me and my brother and cousins love our grandpa. You know, love him, miss him.
Thank you all for coming. What do you say about Uncle Ken? Bigger than life, larger than life, fun-loving, crazy at times. I think we all share some of that crazy Wilkinson gene, unfortunately, but it makes us who we are. I remember one time on Roxana Street, I used to spend a lot of time over there at the house with Roxy and the kids, and Uncle Kenny had a loose tooth, and Uncle Kenny takes a string, ties my tooth to the string, ties the string to the door, and opens the door, and there goes the tooth. How ingenious is that? We'll miss him. He had a good life, hard life, but he played, and we just sent him off to the next journey. Thank you.
Well, as you all know, my grandpa loved all his great-grandkids and grandkids. But he was always, he never really liked crying kids. So about 3 years ago, we were at a Mexican restaurant over here, and for his 85th or something like that. And we're all sitting there, and Finn was just a new baby, and he's sitting right next to Grandpa crying, and Grandpa turns to him and goes, "Yeah!" And Finn, whoa! And he turns to my wife, who this is the first time meeting him, and he goes, he just loves it. But yeah, he loved his grandkids and great-grandkids to death. He never really liked grandkids. I asked my mom about that one. We all love him and miss him.
Talk anymore in public, and it makes me nervous. But after hearing these stories, where's Diane? Diane's there, and Janie, is Janie here? Okay, Diane, Janie, my sister Marlene Jill was a baby when we were doing all. When we would come up, we trade places, and let's see, Barry, I think you're old enough. Where's Barry? You're old enough to run around, so when we come up for Sacramento's. So I think that what happened was Grandma Ruth would beg Aunt Dee Dee or Aunt Mary to take us for 2 weeks, and then you'd come down there for 2 weeks. Okay. Well, we were up with Grandma, and it would be Roxy, Janie, Diane, Barry, Brian, I think Cindy was too little, and my brother sometimes. And we'd be at Grandma's, and it started at the ranch. And for us to go someplace, we just thought it was heaven up here. Okay, so Uncle Ken would come home after work in a pickup truck, Grandma's house, yell at the kids, okay, we're going down to Chili Bar, or we're going down to some other river or some creek, and we all piled in the back of a truck. Well, he had, as somebody already mentioned, he had a good jokester mind. So when we were out swimming, I don't know about you guys, if you were used to this, but we weren't used to learning dirty songs. And what he would do, was Uncle Ken in the Navy, or was he too young? Yeah, well, he learned the Navy songs, I'll tell you that. Well, that's probably it. Do you remember the song, I'm gonna shake my knees, I'm gonna shake my hips, I'm gonna shake my knees, I'm an independent baby, I'm gonna shake what I please? Well, with all emotions and other chapters to it that we all learned. Okay, so I go home, Mara, and I go home. What did you do out there? Well, let us show you what we did out there. We, there was 2 or 3 songs. I don't know if you were in the Navy would remember them, but they're quite memorable if you're a 10-year-old kid singing them to your mother, who's kind of straight-laced, you know? So anyway, that's my memory of Uncle Ken. We could do anything we wanted to do, and we could have as much fun as we wanted to do, and we'd always walk home with something we shouldn't tell our mother. When I used to go down to the ranch, and I'd watch him milk cows, he just loved to squirt me down milk.
I don't know if I need a mic or not, so you can take a step. I've only known Ken for 4 or 5 years. I've been into his son, and I hardly love the business. And figured he was willing to give it to him, and no matter what I gave him, he always made me something out of it. And he's been very supportive. I got this thing going where we're promoting the woodworking program in Delaware County. And every year we have a woodworking fundraiser, and as soon as he found out about it, every year he donated one of his pieces for us to raffle off or have a prize for our woodworking. And he was just a good guy, you know, so I'm very pleased to know him.
Thank you all for coming, and Dad would have loved this turnout. And he would have had the most fun of anybody here, we know that. And thank you so much, and so much to all of us. And enjoy the dessert, and, oh, somebody else?
Uncle Gordy.
There's a couple things I wanted to say that Kenny was definitely one of my favorite people I like to be around, because we had a lot of things in common. That we did, there were a few things that, like county inspectors, fish and game agents, anybody that worked for Bureau of Land Management, basically anybody that worked for the government or had any kind of license plate with no letters on it. Those were things that Ken always told me to look out for, and there were good reasons for that, because you know, look around this room, and if you've been here over 4 generations, then you didn't have to worry about having your property developed by Ken Wilkinson. But if you've been here less than that, I can almost guarantee you that your property, somewhere along the line, if you go back and look at the deeds, there is going to be Wilkinson there somewhere. It might be KFRD or CCP or whatever. You could put all the letters in the alphabet together, but in the bottom line, it'll be Kenny Wilkinson that's done it. And Ken had a way of doing things, and him and my dad got along. They got along. Sometimes they didn't agree on things. They'd go out and whether it was in Kelsey or Barnett Ranch or someplace, and Ken would have a piece of paper, and he'd never get a set of plans. And my dad said, why don't you call Prescott or Sweeney or Patterson or one of these guys? Ah, hell, they don't know what they're doing. They take forever to get anything done. They charge too much. I don't want to deal with it. Just build it, you know. That's the way it went. Just go build the damn road. And I remember one time out at Kelsey, they're out there, and one of our dozer operators, and he takes him out there. I think it was Kohler or somebody like that. And he says, Kohler, just go up there along that fence line. See that big tree? Go around there and do this and all that. Well, he got off by about, I would say maybe a mile. So we found out about 2 days later that one of the neighbors out there, Kelsey or Gardner, whatever it was, the Chrysler Ranch, had a nice new road. Not very happy about the new road. And the cows got out and all that, but Kenny was one of those guys, well, let's just build it and see, we'll pay for it after we get the fine instead of doing all the fees. And, you know, that's not a bad idea. And a lot of times it works, and a lot of times he did that. It wasn't like, I'll go through the county and we'll do this and we'll do that. And he lived in the right time. If he was 30 years old today, he'd be in jail. He would be, he would be in jail, and I don't care how much all the attorneys in El Dorado County couldn't get him out, because he'd be telling them that, you know, this is a bunch of BS. But Kenny was a man of his word. When you shook his hand, you could take it to the bank. You could take it to the bank. There was never anything that, he always paid his bills. Sometimes it took a while to pay him, but when you shook Kenny Wilkinson's hand, and he stood up and looked you in the eye, and he always said, I want to look in your eyes and see if you're bullshitting me or not. And that was it. He said, if you turn your head, I know you're lying. And he says, that's how you tell a good inspector from a bad inspector, when he won't look at you. So anyhow, my hat's off to Kenny Wilkinson. He's taught me a lot, and talk about the bowls and everything. He still does that for Boys and Girls Club, mixes a bowl each year, and just what an honor. And he's a legend in this county, and a lot of us have, especially in the construction business or the development business, the title companies, man, you know, they love Kenny Wilkinson. Love Kenny Wilkinson. So it's an honor to it was an honor to be a friend of his and be an associate with him, and just to be around him, because he liked to take names and kick ass and tell the county to screw off.
Thank you, Gordon, thank you very much. It reminds me of the Barnett Business Park. We just, my father amazed me on his surveying abilities, mathematical abilities, and I don't think he went to college at all. But we had the map for Barnett Business Park to put the roads in. So him and I were where the dam is. We were doing our first shot with this new guppy. It was we always pulled chain, but here was a line-up sight with the laser beams. It was great. So we started following a map that, I don't know if Larry did that?
Oh, yeah.
And Dad's going, well, it's too steep of a hill. So he went over, I think he got Herb Hicks off one of your cats. So we just hopped on the cat. Dad pushed the roads in where he wanted them, and then we surveyed the center line of the road, took it back to, I think Larry did it, and had him design the lots off the center line of the road. That was the easiest way to do it. So that's the way to do it. But anyway, Ed Hagen is here, and I think he's going to maybe play us a tune off of his harmonica.
Can we dance when you're playing?
I got a little microphone.
Say all the bad things about me they want to.
Now's the time.
I'm 90% deaf, and once I taste their mouth, I can't hear them anymore.
Anybody else would like to say something? Has a story that I haven't heard, which a lot of them I haven't. Anybody else want to say anything? Well, then, I guess, yeah, have fun, and thank you guys very much for being here. It warms my heart to see all you guys. And, yeah, great. Well, thank you very much.